We are going to talk about a story that happened here locally in Arizona with an individual who had his home insurance claim denied until he got to 3 on Your Side. 3 TV is a news station here in Arizona. They do like On Your Side. If you've been wronged, you can go to them and they'll help fight it. So this individual went to 3 on Your Side and was able to get it resolved. I'm going to give a quick, brief summary of what happened, and then we'll jump into it, Chase, and break it down. So this individual, he lives part-time here in Phoenix and then part-time in another state. He has a neighbor that has watched his house during the times he's gone. He's watched his house for the past 9 years. Well, one of these times, just a month or so ago, he was gone out of town and his neighbor called him and said, "Hey, I see water running out of your house," which is like cause for concern right away. That would freak me out. So anyways, his neighbor went, turned off the water. This guy flew into town. Come to find out, his toilet, something cracked his toilet when he was gone, and the water was just leaking out continuously for who knows how long. It had to have been a long time if it was coming out of his house through the doors. So he was like, "Oh, well, great. I've had State Farm insurance for almost 30 years. I think since like 1994. I've had State Farm insurance. I'm a loyal customer. They're going to take care of me." Well, they weren't such a great neighbor. His actual neighbor that caught the water is a good neighbor. State Farm, not so much a good neighbor. They said, "Nope, we are not going to cover it because we don't know how the crack originated. We don't know if it was sudden and accidental. We're not going to cover it." And so long story short, he had to get 3 on Your Side involved. State Farm sees the negative publicity and they say, "Oh, did we say it wasn't covered? It's actually covered."
It doesn't matter how long you've been a customer to an insurance company. They don't care. When a claim happens, they're not going to say, "Well, benefit of the doubt, you've been with us for nearly 30 years, we're going to cover it." No, it for them is black and white. Okay, if it's in the policy as an exclusion, we're not going to pay for it. So you can't fall back on the values of, "Well, I've been with them forever, so they'll be good by me." No. Yep. If the contract language says that it's covered or not, boom, that's it. Doesn't matter how long, if you've been with them for a day or 30 years. Good point. The best thing that you can always do when any insurance company, whether it's homeowners, auto, or any other kind of insurance out there, ask them, "What is your authority? Where are you getting your authority to deny this claim?" And get it in writing, because they know that they can be held responsible if they do a denial and it's not done in good faith. If they're just doing anything they can to avoid it, then that's where they're going to really get hurt later on.
Let's say you have a claim, something similar to this scenario. The claims adjuster comes back and says, "Sorry, this isn't covered." What you're saying is you don't have to take that as doctrine, like, "Oh, they said it's not covered, it's not covered." But what needs to happen is you need to say, "Show me in my policy exactly where it says this is not covered."
If you get that from them and they say it's not covered because here's what your language says into this matter and under this provision, we do not cover it, then fine. Okay, that's what you signed up for. And that's why you and I have talked about making sure that you just don't buy boilerplate insurance policies. You got to make sure that they're taking care of your unique situation. I've come across too many experiences where insurance companies will deny something. And then when I ask them, "Okay, what's your authority?" They don't give that to me. And next thing you know, oh, wait, it actually is covered.
We need to keep these insurance companies honest to make sure that if there is coverage in the policy language, it needs to be covered.
And that's why it's important to talk with a good insurance agent to explain your situation so that there aren't things in a policy that are going to come back to hurt you, so that you can add the type of coverage that you need. But it's one thing to have an insurance company say, "You're not covered because of X, Y, and Z. Here it is in your policy." Okay, darn it. That's too bad. Yep. But if they can't cite to you the reason why, then that's not good enough. They should always be able to put in writing where they're getting the authority to deny it.
I want to talk about 2 things in particular about this specific story because I think it's necessary for everybody to know. The first thing is this individual, this was kind of like his secondary home. If you have a secondary home, let's say you're only living there 3, 4, 5, 6 months out of the year, you need to make sure that your insurance company knows that, because there are exclusions in most every single home insurance policy that says, hey, if you are only living here part-time, or if you're only living here a certain amount of time during the year, then this and this and this is going to be excluded. However, you can fix that by letting your insurance company know. Usually they can add an endorsement or get you the right type of policy to where when something happens, those things aren't excluded.
You got to look at it. The point of the insurance company is they're looking at insuring somebody's house that's their primary residence. If it's not your primary residence, then there are things that can happen, like a slow leak or something that could damage the house significantly, where if you're living there, every day of the year, you'll see that before the damage gets that much bigger.
The whole reason that State Farm gave for denying it is they're trying to say that this was something that was not sudden and accidental. Rather, it was something that occurred slowly over time. And that's how a lot of insurance contracts are written. They want to cover things that are sudden and accidental. So an example, your air conditioning is 25 years old. You haven't given it the proper maintenance and it just breaks down because it's old and you haven't given it the proper maintenance. That is not sudden and accidental. Insurance is not going to cover that. Now, let's say a storm comes through, knocks down a tree falls on your air conditioning and completely breaks it. That is sudden and accidental, and that is your property that's going to be covered under your home insurance policy. Insurance companies, they write this language into their contracts because, again, they're not a home warranty company. They're not wanting to cover things that you should take care of through general maintenance. Most of the time in these, what are they, like porcelain toilets? You're not going to have a crack that slowly gets bigger. Most of the time, something's going to happen that's going to crack it. And so that's what they were trying to say. And that's where I think, and you mentioned this, Chase, they didn't do the investigation. This happened over time. So we're going to deny it. I don't think that was the right way to go.
It's the same thing. Again, where's the authority? And if you're citing that under the policy that, well, this developed over time and was slow as opposed to an accident or sudden, are you going to have an expert who's going to say, yes, this type of crack that occurred in the toilet is something that happens with time? I doubt they're going to find somebody like that because, again, like a toilet's not going to just crack like that over time. It's going to be something that is sudden or unexpected that should be covered in this type of policy.
And I also don't want to sound like the old man that's like, don't use the internet to buy your insurance. But there's a purpose. A lot of times people will say, well, what's the point of having an agent, or what's the point of having a broker? I can just go online and buy it and it's so much easier. Yes, I understand it's easier to do it, but there is an actual point to having an agent and having a broker. And that's because they can be your advocate. They can help you. They can let you know what's in the policy. When you get that denial from the insurance company, you can consult with them when they say, hey, your policy says this and this and this is not covered. You can sit down with your broker and you can go through that, and then you can refute that and try to get coverage. Whereas if you go to a Geico or a State Farm, that these big companies, basically you're on your own unless you call 3 on your side. Or of course, Chase, you're always here to help. But that's the whole point of having an agent and a broker. They're not just there to take your money, but they're there to actually help you when situations like this arise.
Every word means something. Every place that there's a word, there are specific reasons why they use that word. And so I love poring over it to figure out exactly why they framed it that way and whether or not there's coverage. And there is a claim when your own insurance is denying it and they don't have good reason for doing it. It's called a bad faith claim that you can make against your own insurance company. You never want to throw out that language to the insurance company because that's making assumptions that they are treating you poorly. But if you get things in writing and they're still denying it and it doesn't seem right, well, don't just take it as that. You can consult with an attorney and they can tell you, well, yeah, something doesn't seem quite right. And if they really have denied you in bad faith, and it's not even bad faith, it's the standard that these insurance companies have to treat you with. It's called, they have to treat you in good faith and fair dealing. Okay. And so they've got to give you basically the benefit of the doubt. And if they're not treating you like that, there are penalties because you're paying them money every month to have this coverage. Mm-hmm. And so I'm happy to look over those policies and I'll tell you straight up, look, this is an exclusion. Sorry, I can't do anything. Or it's borderline, and I don't know if it's going to cost more for me to be involved than what you're going to get out of it. But I'm not going to have you sign up or go with me. But we can at least point you in the right direction of what your options are.